My name is Genie and I currently am the head of public affairs for Asia Pacific at Kaspersky. I am primarily responsible for developing trusted relations with governments, with institutional stakeholders for Kaspersky, while integrating the business, communications, and the company's public policy strategies within the Asia Pacific region. For the public affairs role, there actually is one element of public policy and regulations and advocacy that we generally need to look after. And then there's the other aspect of being able to negotiate relationships and to build and nurture those relationships for purposes of bridging between the public and the private sectors. I am based in the very beautiful city island called Singapore, which sits right at the heart of Asia. So outside of a very busy work life, I try to find balance in activities which require me to fully focus in the activity itself and to take my mind off, such as canvas painting and a good game of golf out on the greens. My painting experience is akin to prescribing different solutions for different countries within a region which is so diverse itself, and who are at a very different state of play in terms of its cybersecurity maturity or willingness to engage with a private partner on cybersecurity issues or priorities. The Asia Pacific region is very special to me, and I love the vast diversity that exists in the region, culturally, in history, language, and of course in the context of my work in terms of diversity in cyber maturity and national priorities. The sheer diversity of the region naturally translates into very challenging situations when I'm trying to engage with my stakeholders from different countries. But these challenges intrigue me every single time, because I remind myself that there is an important place among these challenges that we play, that a company like Kaspersky lays claim on in helping our stakeholders navigate through the challenges that they each face as experts in all things cybersecurity, to find better solutions, to achieve better policy outcomes, and to the benefit of their respective citizenry. For instance, in terms of cybersecurity policy development, looking at the Asia Pacific, we can broadly categorize countries into three groups. The first would be what I call the advanced group, where there are leaders in the cybersecurity field and they have a clear strategy in place and are already doing more in terms of development in the cybersecurity space, putting a lot of effort into boosting its national cybersecurity capabilities. They also play a part in bolstering regional cybersecurity capabilities, placing data security high on the national agenda. The second group would be what I call the intermediate group, those that have identified cyber attacks as an area they need to really, really seriously look into and have attempted to make some inroads in that space, actively reinforcing regulations and standard setting across the government and in partnership with the private sector. These countries tend to have a national cybersecurity law or standards or blueprints already developed or in the process of being developed across government and private organizations. And they also would engage in efforts to promote cybersecurity education and capacity building, to also build on or integrate ongoing initiatives as well. And then the last group would be what I call the more initial cluster of countries in terms of cybersecurity maturity. Basically, there are countries which have just begun paying attention to this area for various reasons, including perhaps sometimes more pressing domestic needs that may have displaced their attention on cybersecurity a little bit. For the Asia Pacific region, the threat landscape is as diverse as it is rapidly evolving. And again, it's different for different countries within the region. So against that backdrop of the pandemic and geopolitics as well, government organizations will continue to be natural targets for a whole array of cyber attacks, be it espionage or politically motivated attacks or other threats. So every stakeholder that I'm engaging, every issue at hand, the approach tends to need to vary at least slightly, depending on the circumstances surrounding at that point in time. There is a growing trend of protectionism among nation states, but still there is room for businesses regardless of countries of origin to cooperate among themselves. For instance, at Kaspersky, we organize regular open innovation startup calls, which help build businesses through tailored business advice, help them launch and to help them grow their pilot projects, and to also provide a global platform for them to get a head start and to accelerate their growth. So perhaps if you look at it as an established company helping new players in the field, it's a way of giving back. So there is definitely a space for cooperation among businesses despite a growing protectionism trend among countries. I am a firm believer of the idea of different strokes for different folks, different swing for different things. I either play with the use of different brushes or another medium, or varying the pressure that I apply to my brushes, mixing colors, introducing texture to my paintings. Asian states are actively thinking about cybersecurity as a whole, but some may still be lagging behind because they are not as well equipped. So they look to cooperation with businesses to better achieve their national agenda. There is a general observable trend that national authorities have become more willing to engage with businesses in a real way. So for instance, countries have realized that as they look towards formulating and implementing their strategies, it is essential to cooperate with the industry. And this trend takes place in both the technical space and the policy space. First, in the technical space, businesses have real skin in the game. That's what I always say, and therefore would spare no effort to attract the best talents, the best researchers, best products and solutions developers to meet market demands. And these technical expertise may not reside in some national authorities, and therefore through public-private partnerships, they are able to tap into the private domain expertise to tackle problems that they face. Secondly, would be in the policy space. We are frequently invited to sit in committees with regular meetings or that are hosted by national authorities, or enter into partnership programs with the government to provide expert contributions, or inviting us for policy feedback through private or public consultations. So at Kaspersky, we have entered into several of these cooperation with national authorities, either through formalizing things a little bit more, through memorandums of understanding containing commitments of mutual interests, or through contribution in key national campaigns featuring anti-malware efforts, which tend to comprise very many technical elements, or by promoting cyber wellness and the general raising of the level of cyber awareness and maturity in any targeted citizenry. There is a fair amount of people skills that is essential. A lot of projects are actually cross-functions, whether it's within the company or even externally with stakeholders. So for someone to perform the role of, in public affairs, you need to also have that ability to negotiate relationships, manage dynamics, and to achieve the intended outcomes for the company. Obviously, to be an effective negotiator would be quite essential. You need to be able to also exercise a lot of dexterity, flexibility and creativity when coming up with solutions in terms of navigating those relationships. And also there is, because we do deal with governments and public institutions a fair bit, there is a lot of expectations on this role to be able to manage upwards and to be able to work well and manage governmental relationships as well. No matter what background you come from and no matter what training you have had, you're always in for something new. You're always in for something that you don't expect, because when governmental decisions are often based on a variety of things, not just business interests, but also larger public policy considerations. And because policy often follows people, So a lot of the specific problems that a country faces tend to translate eventually into policy solutions that the governments will implement in order to solve that problem. So for someone to perform the role of public affairs, it is essential that he or she stays curious and to stay really open-minded, because you're always in for a surprise. Always be willing to learn and be able to help others help you as well. So I think staying humble is very important, because for me, when I stepped into this role, I was not exactly very well versed in the technology industry and its issues. So I had to start with a very steep learning curve, and I think being able to help others to help me get up to speed was especially essential in the first 3 to 6 months of my career. And so just realize that nothing is below you, and you'll really create a much better working environment for yourself to learn as well by remaining humble.